Hello everybody, my name is Kara and today I am here with the Pride Flag book tag. This tag was created by Spencer from Common Spence and he was also the one who tagged me, so I will link his original video down below. Each question is based on the symbolism of one color in the Pride rainbow flag, which Spencer did such an amazing little presentation on in his original video. I'm wearing my most colorful shirt. I put rainbows on my face, so let's get started. Question number 1 is Red, Life. A book with a spirited protagonist totally proud of who they are. Someone who gives you life. And I have to give this to Alice from Let's Talk About Love by Claire Can. This book is about our main character Alice, who is asexual, biromantic, and black, so there is a ton of representation there, and she is just the most sweet and bubbly and funny person, and I loved her so much. It was so much fun to be in her head and to get her perspective on the world around her. She's so funny, and honestly I bonded with Alice so much and her bubbly personality that anytime she would have kind of a conflict with some of the other characters in the book, I would be completely on Alice's side every time. Like her and her best friend Feeny, I think we were supposed to feel like both sides had a point, but I'm Team Alice all the way. Question number 2 is Orange, Healing. A book that made you as the reader find a deeper meaning or catharsis in your life. And I'm going with They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. This is a very, very heartbreaking book set in this alternate future or alternate reality where there is a system that can tell you when you are going to die, and they phone you up and tell you when it is your last day. And our two main characters, Rufus and Mateo, meet through kind of a friendship app based on the fact that they are both going to die that day, and this book just follows their adventures and their growing friendship and romantic relationship, and it is just so beautiful and heartbreaking. And I actually think that another important thing this book talks about is based on the kind of side characters that you get perspectives of, like a chapter from their point of view throughout the book. And sometimes that connects to Rufus and Mateo's story, and sometimes it doesn't really. It's just about these other people living their lives. And I really loved that because that to me represents the fact that everybody matters and everybody is important, and you might be a side character in somebody else's story, which is great, but you also have your own story going on. And just because you don't always feel like you're the most interesting protagonist or like you're the one who the story would be told about if you were in a book, it doesn't mean you don't matter, and that's one of the reasons I really loved this book. Question number 3 is Yellow, Sunshine. A book that fills you with so much joy it could brighten even your darkest day. And I am going with The Kingdom of Strange by Shula Klinger. This is one of those books that I remember checking out from the library multiple times, just like over and over again. I would look for a new book that I wanted to read, and if I couldn't find something, I would check this one out again. So in this book, we follow Thisbe, and this is just, it's a hard book to describe because it doesn't sound like there's a lot of plot when I'm talking about it. It's basically this girl kind of going through some things in high school and figuring out who she is, but it's more about the fact that she wants to be a writer, but she's not sure who she is yet as a person, and that's kind of affecting her, and she's living with her grandmother for a few months, and she's really getting to know this person in her life who she didn't know very well before, and she forms this online friendship, and there's a lot of things going on with that, and this is just, it's such a beautiful and quiet and funny kind of book. Like, if you connect with Thisbe, if you like her personality, you're definitely gonna love this book because the whole book is just infused with that personality. And this book brightens my day because it's such a funny and positive story, but it handles some important issues. Like, Thisbe goes through some like body image problems like many of us did or do, and it's just so wonderful to see her start to become more confident and to love and accept who she is. And the reason this is an LGBT plus book is near the end she starts to come to the realization that she may be asexual. I don't think she actually uses that word because she's still sort of getting comfortable expressing that. This isn't necessarily a coming out story, but it really is about Thisbe discovering who she is as a person, and part of that is her sexual identity, and I just highly recommend this book. It's so underrated and I love it. Question number 4 is Green, Nature. A book that is set out of this world, a reality different to our own. And I actually have 2 books for this because I love fantasy, but the first one is Deadly Sweet Lies by Erica Cameron. This is the second book in the Dream War Saga series, and I've mentioned the first book recently. I also really love that one. And this book specifically, we have representation from an asexual character and from a lesbian character. I believe she specifically uses that word. The characters in these books are so well developed and so wonderful, and the plot is really interesting as well. I don't want to give away too much of the plot about this one because that would spoil the first book, but it's about dream worlds and of like fighting these creatures, and it's such an amazing series. The asexual rep is also Own Voices, which is always wonderful to see. My other choice, or sort of my honorable mention, is Tessa of the Road by Rachel Hartman, and this actually goes for the Serafina duology as well, because these books are connected, they are set in the same world, although I don't think you need to read those to read this one. That's what I've heard. And these books are so beautiful and heartbreaking and wonderful and magical, and I feel like I'm just using the same adjectives over and over. The only reason they're not my choice for this answer, and they're kind of a runner-up, is because the main character of this book is not LGBT+, but throughout Serafina and its sequel and this one, we do have trans side characters, a lesbian side character, a character who I believe you could classify as gender fluid or gender queer, but I don't think they explicitly use that terminology in these books. And this is just such a breathtakingly detailed fantasy world, and the characters are so real and raw. Like Tess in particular, she is hurting so much, she has gone through some terrible, terrible things, but you still feel like she's so strong underneath it all, and she's doing the best she can in a world that does not treat women well, and it does not treat people of other races or sometimes genders or even species, because there are dragons in these books. And this, I cannot recommend Rachel Hartman's books enough. Her writing is beautiful. It's definitely a quiet kind of slow build fantasy, but if that's what you're into, I think you would really love her books. Number 5 is Blue, Peace, a book where one of the characters finds peace with a difficult truth. And for this one, I'm going with Trick by Natalia Jaster. And one of the protagonists, Poet, is a jester, and he is bisexual, and he's very open about it, and it's not treated as a big deal in the story, which is also kind of cool. And this is basically about Poet and our other main character, Princess Briar, getting to know each other and falling in love, but also getting to understand each other's kingdoms better. There is so much depth to this book, and the characters are so well drawn and wonderful. Like, seeing Poet and Briar interact, it's so fun, but it's also so frustrating, but like in a good way, because they clearly have a connection, and just seeing them get to know each other and sort of dismantle their own internalized ideas about like the other person's background and the other person's kingdom is just so wonderful. Like, there is a lot of discussion of developmental or learning disabilities and how that is treated in this fantasy world, and how different kingdoms handle that sometimes very badly. So there is this element of recognizing that you can't just expect things to change, you have to be a part of making the world a better place. But there are also some difficult truths that are more positive that they come to understand, like the fact that it is possible to make those changes, and the fact that individual people can change their mind, like especially Princess Briar, who has grown up in a kind of less open-minded environment. She still grows so much, and she begins to understand Poet's perspective, and she starts to treat people better, completely separate from the fact that she is in love with this person, and I think that's so important. I would call this more of a new adult story than a young adult, so keep that in mind. I will say though, like, I'm someone who doesn't read new adult ever, just about, and I still really enjoyed this one. And finally, number 6 is Purple, Spirit, a book that deals with LGBT+ themes and religion. I actually had a really hard time with this one, so if you guys have any recommendations for this kind of book, please leave them in the comments. I know that Autobiography by Christina Lauren is amazing, and I need to get to that one, but my pick for this answer, it kind of counts. I'll explain why, and that is The Nowhere Girls by Amy Reed. So this is a very hard-hitting and at times graphically disturbing takedown of sexism and rape culture in our society. And we follow 3 main characters who are basically, they're on a mission to get justice for a girl who was raped at their school, and the school did nothing about it. Their community did nothing about it except run that girl out of town. So it's definitely an intense and upsetting story, as I said. But one of our main characters is Rosina, and she is Latinx and a lesbian, and she is wonderful. And even though she is not the character who has the religious themes kind of in her story, that's actually one of the other characters, Grace. I think that Amy Reed did such a good job of handling all the themes in this book, like those about religion and racism and sexuality and of course rape culture, and all of these really important issues. I think Amy Reed did such a good job giving them their own space and making them feel important to the story and treating them well, and I just think she did such a good job with that. Grace is also plus size, and then our other main character, Erin, is also on the autistic spectrum, I believe, and this is just such a diverse book, such an important book. And another thing I love is that Rosina, her life is not always the best. Her family life is really stressful. She's going through so much, and despite all of that, her romantic story with another girl in this book is just the most pure and wonderful and fluffy thing, and to have that in the midst of all of this disturbing content was just so wonderful, and it was really unusual and refreshing to see that with a female-female romance, to have that be like the light and fluffy kind of moment. Okay everybody, so that was the Pride Flag book tag. Thank you again, Spencer, so much for tagging me. If I think of someone who hasn't been tagged yet, I will definitely put that in the description, so check for that. But anybody should feel welcome and encouraged to do this tag. Just everybody should be on board for this wonderful book tag. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you soon with another video, and I hope you love the next book you read. Bye!